or grow it. From the Stash Podcast.
Hey, what's up, guys? Do you want to get your hands on the latest From the Stash merch? Check the links below, get the From the Stash store, and go check to see the latest drop. We appreciate all the support, as always, and we will check you in the next epi.
Thanks to AC Infinity for sponsoring this episode. They have the best grow tent kits on the market today. You get their ion board LED grow light, their grow tent, their ventilation system, clip-on fan, and their controller 69 to control it all. You also get their fabric pots, a trellis net, plant ties, and trimmers. Definitely a good price for all that you get in the kit. I'll have a link in the description section below so you can learn more about these grow tent kits, and the discount code TheStash15 works on both Amazon and their website, acinfinity.com.
What are we going to talk about today, man?
So I want to talk to you guys about something a little bit. You know, Chris was actually letting us know he's furthering his education even more, and I love what he's doing. It's major respect. I feel like he's doing it for the community, for himself, but he doesn't realize it for the community. And it's really cool to see people who don't necessarily need to, but want to further their education in this place and go not just within the bro science, but go into the actual grow science. But is it necessary for everybody? I think it depends on what you're doing and depends on what your goal is. And I think, is that going to be the maker or breaker of your success in this space? That's debatable. And I guess it depends on where you're getting your information or education and how you're getting it and how you apply it. So I kind of want to chat a little bit about that today. Chris, being right in the trenches, it's like we're interviewing you like a guest, but it's perfect. You can tell us because you're actually having the experience, as where like you have regular formal experience in the grow too. So you got formal education you're getting, but actual real experience. So I think collectively we can all touch on that and maybe see if we can help the people learn a little bit about what they can do too.
Yeah, and I mean, a formal education from an accrediting university is kind of what we're talking about here. Now, there's some other programs out there, Oaksterdam, but they're not really, are they technically an accrediting university? I don't think so. I think it's just like a cannabis college. I mean, we could talk about that too, but kind of what I'm going through right now, and I went through last year, was Utah State University. And Wink, I sent you the sources. I'm not sure if you can pull that up.
Link.
Source number 1 is the Utah State University, and it's hosted by Dr. Bruce Bugbee and also instructed by Mitchell Westmoreland and Royal Hines, a couple of names that probably most of you guys aren't familiar with, but they are very, very smart people. I went through the program last year, certificate program, and I actually passed the final exam, so I officially have a certificate for cultivation, which is pretty cool. But they're bringing it back. They actually just opened it back up. Registration opens September 5th here, so we're good. And once you pay for it and access it, you have access to the course all the way till March 31st of next year. So you have it for a significant amount of time. Last year they had like 55 different video presentations. Now they've added in a whole bunch more. I don't know how many more they added in, but there's a whole bunch of new topic sections on like breeding, organics, cannabinoid and terpene synthesis. The list goes on. But for me, having an education like this, I'm kind of a nerd, Loki. You guys haven't realized this. I'm a nerd. I like to dig down and learn the nitty gritty of things and just improve on my own. I understand people aren't like that. Some people just want to plant a seed, grow the plant, get a harvest. Fine. For me, I felt like going back to school and learning more, it stimulates my brain, and I can take away some of the stuff and actually implement it in my garden. So I genuinely enjoy it. And, me being a content creator, I can actually take some of the stuff that I'm learning and put it towards my videos as well. So for someone like me, it makes sense. And this Utah State University one, I definitely highly recommend. They actually increased the price though from $1,000 to $1,500. But in my opinion, it's worth it for those who are looking to further their education. It could be just for a personal level, but it could also be for folks that are looking to work in the industry in the future. Learning from an accredited university like this, it's definitely beneficial. It's something to add to your resume if you are going towards that.
100%. I'm glad you mentioned, it's like you're a nerd, and that's what we love about you, man. And it's because of guys like you that guys like me can even succeed. Because guys like you are going to know the ins and outs. You're going to understand the process. You're going to understand photosynthesis and all those other big terms that I try to understand. And it's like you can take that science, you can make it applicable to a guy like myself who can then understand it, you can turn it into an awesome YouTube video. And rather than going to a course or spending the money and doing an entire education system, I'm going to learn from that. And then therefore our community, our industry grows because of that, because we have people that want to know the next thing about our plant. And that's so crucial. That's so important. And just because that's not for me, that's not relevant to the conversation. The fact that we have people in our community that want to do this is what's beneficial and should be taken advantage of, because we're not going anywhere if we're not going to learn anything about this plant. There's so much to learn, and in my opinion, there's so much we haven't learned yet. So good on you.
To be fair, me and P help run a Grand Theft Auto roleplay server. So nerd is a term we could throw around a little loosely around here. But also, when it comes down to the education and the personal side, it's great to develop your skills more and to be more formally educated in the area. But then, let's say again for business. So now I'm in the commercial growth space, and I'm seeing that a lot of the people who are in the successful ones don't necessarily have a traditional formal education. The ones before, when they started, it was like they have a botany degree. They've got some sort of random degree not related to, the herb specifically, or a certificate related specifically to it. And I think that's where you can have experience that can trump that education. But in your case, you're getting the actual education. There's not many places that do that. Now, Oaksterdam is one, but I know that I wouldn't say it's become saturated, but it's almost like the DeVry Institute or ITT Tech type of shit. You know what I'm saying? Where like a ton of people, I mean, not trying to knock that. People have done very well going to those places, but it's just become very saturated. And so a lot of people in Michigan have already gone and done that, and it doesn't necessarily make you stand above the next person unless you've got real experience. So there goes both ways, where you need to have the experience that'll help you get to the area, but then also the education. You've got the double whammy, where you've got a real actual education for the plant, and then you've got the real actual experience. I think that's going to help a lot more people if they look at it in that space. It's like everything you do that, let's say you got Instagram or you've got YouTube, whatever, it's almost like a home portfolio. That's your amateur side. You go and get the formal education, that makes it so you can bridge the gap between those, and now you've got a resume builder. So if you do want to get in this space, you're a hot commodity now. You're somebody who is highly sought after because you know what the fuck you're doing. It's not going to be somebody who is just saying, well, yeah, I know botany, I know general plants, or I know how to deal with extraction, I know chemical extraction. It's like, okay, but you don't know hash, bruh. Big difference. I see this directly in the company I work with. There's people in there who are very, very high level science, but very, very low level cannabis. So there's two different, you got to bridge that gap. You got to find out how they meet, because otherwise it doesn't make sense to have that education if you don't have the experience,
And that's why now is such an exciting time to be involved in this space, because up until this point, all we had was experience. We didn't have anyone diving in. Maybe we had Israel, but that's, few and far between, doing real science, real experiments on the plant. And it was really just the hippies, the 60s, 70s, trying to figure the plant out, that kind of led the way to make people realize, okay, well, it's not as dangerous as we've been led to believe, which then led people to kind of experiment a little bit more, opened up the floodgates. Well, now we're sitting at a time where it's on the cusp of legalization, where people no longer need to experiment in their basement on how to get this right. We can take it to a lab with equipment and resources and funding, and then do some kind of science, and then turn that into an education system. So very exciting time right now that this is even an option for us.
Yeah, and you mentioned Oaksterdam University, Rob, a little bit ago, and I was thinking about going to them. Actually, I'm looking at their website right now, and they have a horticulture one for, I think it was like $2,000, but you meet twice a week for 8 weeks, which I'm like, is that really worth it? So like, I'm not really sure. I know a couple people who have gone through that, and they seem to have liked it. I'm not sure how it compares to the one at Utah State University. But there are multiple options out there, right? There's actually a Wink, if you can pull up the source number 2, I believe. There's one at Oregon State University. But the thing about this one, it's a home horticulture one, but it's other types of plants. But it can be beneficial because a lot of things that they teach in those type of courses can be brought over. And then the third source, Wink, if you can pull that up, there's a Master Gardener Basic Botany. So it gets more into botany versus just the horticulture, just actual, the gardening side of things. So there's different ways that you can go, and you could do online, or you can do in person. But yeah, for someone like me, again, it's beneficial. It's helping me advance my knowledge on things, but it's not for everybody. It's certainly not for everybody. You have to be willing to do it and really be in the mindset to do it. It takes a lot of time. Every single night I was listening to presentations, taking notes, spending hours each day doing it. And but yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, but
Well,
that's
I was just
Go
gonna
ahead.
say that's different though with the like we like this stuff where we're into the play. The passion is there. It's not like you're a normal formal education of university, like you're at an English course or you're at regular botany. You know what I'm saying? Like this is something we're passionate about as people. So it's rare to be able to find that space to be able to nerd out and really be like, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah, and you know what? That education is important. It's important to grow yourself. It's important to grow your mind and challenge yourself. And when you say that, whether or not you actually use the information that you're going to learn, well, that's kind of subjective because, as you said, you may not learn the entire process of insert a fancy term that I have no idea of right here. It's like you might not be able to or like kind of reiterate or kind of repeat what you learned, but chances are what you are going to do is you're going to take some of that back into your own garden and you're going to apply some of that knowledge to help you grow a little bit better next time. That's really important. I have an education I have a Bachelor of Arts degree because I was going to become a lawyer and never used it at all. Decided no thanks. Actually, it was a lot harder than I thought. And you know what? The amount of information I learned, I don't think I'm going to use most of it, but I grew as an individual. I got to challenge myself, and I got to see what I can do and how I can perform in this kind of scenario. And that's important. That's relevant. So I think whether you're going to use this as an education to bridge a career or you're just going to enlighten yourself, it's important.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say with Chris, it's like you could, and I know you said you weren't into it, but like you'd be a fucking shoo-in of running a facility now. Like you literally a perfect example of somebody that they would pay you as much as they could afford because you have the education that you can literally have on paper. So the investors are like, okay, this guy knows his shit. But then you have a gigantic portfolio all across the internet.
Yeah, I was thinking about applying for commercial facilities, but on second thought, when you really think about it, you have to go to those facilities every single day, and you're there for most of the day and working with plants, which is fantastic. It's a great thing, right? But for me, in my current situation, I'm able to work from home. I have the flexibility, it's something I enjoy. I have a girlfriend, might propose at some point.
Oh, Mrs.
Hopefully she's
Grant?
not listening to this. Actually, she does listen to this. So maybe at some point it'll be a proposal. I'll have to edit that out, But in case it doesn't happen, right? But family, right? If I have a family, if I have a child, I'll be able to work from home and be here with my kids and family. And that's one thing I learned from Pigeons is family is so important, so important. So like if I were to go for a commercial facility, I wouldn't be around as much for my family as if as I am right now.
Absolutely, man. And see, like that's where, even just like I see it over here with Honey Bunch of Slugs in the chat, you could always start your own. You know what I'm saying? I could see you just having the vision and knowing how to do it. And things need to work their way down. Our industry, and again, I've been preaching this forever. It's crazy that I finally am in this space. Just coincidentally, universe bridged those gaps. But it's like the industry needs more people who really have experience. So from the top, it works its way down of like the real quality. So the consumer wins in the end. So we've got a lot of situations where these people get in there who have a lot of experience and they can do really well, but then they're not as efficient in business because they don't have actual education. In your case, you'd know what would be bro science and grow science. You'd be like, no, this is a waste of fucking time. Why are we doing this? Because you did it for 20 years before at home or in 10 years in your caregiver grow. Like this is different now. Like now there's real science to back a lot of this, and the facts are super important.
That's one thing that's so cool about that Utah State University. That certificate program is literally, it's just all science, so if you're into science, this is for you. This isn't sponsored by Utah State University or anything like that. I keep on going on and on and on about it, but like every single one of the presentations that they have there, it's referencing studies. And it's just, I think I mentioned this earlier, it's kind of almost like information overload because there's just so much information. I can sit there and take notes and have pages full of notes for each one of them. And then they're actually referencing again studies that are backed by science, the scientific method about going about things, going about growing the plants. So that's one thing I really like about it. Is just it's factual versus it's not the bro science that you hear about a lot on YouTube. YouTube has a lot of great resources. I'm not knocking off any content creator, any channel that creates gardening content, but there's a lot of bad information on YouTube, and you really do need to do your due diligence and fact check some of these things that people are saying, because there's a lot of bad stuff and it could lead you down the wrong path. The last thing you want to do is follow some advice that you read in the comment section, and all of a sudden your plants are ruined and all your hard work down the drain. So yeah, if you're a part of YouTube University and you're getting your education through that, just do your due diligence and double check some of the things that you're hearing on there.
Imagine if we had the education that you're going through now before legalization. And I mean both in the United States, but more in particularly in Canada. If we were teaching people how to grow this plant before we expected them to sell it to people, I feel like the industry would have done a complete 180 from what it did in 2018. The industry has been run by Brads and Chads. Sorry, Brad and Chad. But these people have zero grow experience. They don't even toke. They heard that this was the green gold rush, and they thought, I'm just going to throw some money at the solution and hope it would work out. And, I can list a bunch of companies in Canada that it didn't work out for, unfortunately. And had they had people that understood the plant, understood how to grow it, how long it took to grow it, the price that it took to grow it, and the environment to which you needed to, sustain to grow it, a lot of these companies would have been able to keep going. They would have survived. But instead, they got caught up in overcost of supply. They got caught up in the length of time it takes to grow. Because believe it or not, although you and I thought that we grew overnight, it doesn't, and it doesn't. And they figured this out the hard way after millions of dollars of investments. So imagine if we were to teach people before the market goes legal. The states. Unfortunately, I feel like this ball is already rolling in the same way that it has for Canada. Many states, most in this case, have already legalized in some form, but before they've started to educate. So we are going to get caught in this cycle where we're going to have a bunch of people with money that think they know how to make it go, but can't make it go, while the people that are with the experience and the education are lagging behind because they want the experience and education first. So it's kind of a catch-22.
In Michigan, we just, I'm not even say they are allowing more and more licenses, stackable licenses. So the point where people are getting, companies that just have money are buying more and more and more, and people who are out of the state are buying more and more and coming here, and they're not necessarily doing anything educational for the community or beneficial for the community. They just have money. So with that being the issue, if there was more educated people, they wouldn't buy into the shit. They just wouldn't believe it, but this perpetuated ignorance flows from California to Colorado to Washington to here, and it makes its way to Michigan. This was a big push for me wanting to get more into the commercial space. And it's crazy when I'm in meetings and like people will say shit. I'm like, do you even smoke? Or like, have you even sold a bag? Like, what the fuck are we doing? That's an important factor. But then you get into the garden and you've got, home growers who got into this space who are still doing the shit they did at home. That was all bro science. And there's no cause and effect. They just are going based on a logical fallacy that what they saw online works, that they need to have the lights off for 48 hours to get more trichomes and all these crazy things. It's not necessarily science, but it worked for them. Did it work or not? Well, real education will help you notice the difference and not waste so much time, because time is money in a factor of a commercial setting. So like you go from the home grow optimization to the commercial space or profitability side monetization. Like education is so fucking important. I think there's a big factor that people sleep on. And if you're paying, what, $1,400, you said total?
Yeah.
That's not shit.
No, and I think
For tuition, like
Ken and Annie over on Twitch makes a good point. And if you're watching this on YouTube, we stream every single week, Thursdays, 2 p.m. Central, 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific. If you want to come join us, it's twitch.tv/From the Stash podcast. Come join the conversation. Come influence the topics, and maybe we'll see you there. And your comments can help direct our conversation. However, she makes a good point where growing trees isn't free. And yeah, that's exactly right. And education alone won't grow plants. It doesn't, and it won't sustain a commercial outfit, and it won't make you any money. You do need money to run the operation. But what needs to happen is you need a good blend of both the science, the education, and the investments. To my point, if I didn't articulate myself well enough, I just feel like before this point, we've had the money, just didn't have the education. So it just wasn't help. We need a good, happy mix of this. Now, Chris, let's say that somebody did want to get an education. What would you think would be like the most important, maybe bit of advice or something that you would tell them to look for when trying to get legitimate education on the plant?
I mean, that's a tough one. The only one I really know of is the one by Utah State University, and then we talked about Oaksterdam, which is pretty well known. I mean, those are courses you could go through, but there's not a whole lot now. There are ones popping up that I'm probably not aware of. Maybe somebody in the chat or the comment section can name off some of these places that are teaching horticulture. But I'm not too familiar with really legitimate ones that you can go through, and it'll really be a good thing for your resume. Besides the one that I'm going through right now. So, but a piece of advice I can give for you that are maybe starting this would be take notes. You're going to be watching these. There's going to be more information that you can handle unless you've got one of those sponges for a brain. Like some people, I don't know how they do it. They just hear some things and all of a sudden they can say back exactly what was said, and they can memorize things for years without trying. But for me, I'm having to take notes. I'm having to rewatch videos over and over again. I'm having to study the notes over and over again in order to grasp that information. So that's the way I'm going to actually go about it now with these new programs or these new topics that they've added in. Is I'm going to be going through them multiple times. First time I went through it, I just watched it. Second time around, I took notes. I think I might just take notes first time I go around, and then watch it over and over again and refer to the notes and make sure I got everything. But yeah, it's hard to grasp everything. It's just so much good information.
Well, and that's the thing too, is with something like that, it's going to almost be a guide. Like the amount of information in that probably could have been broke down into like a year's worth of stuff, but it's not a cash grab situation, obviously, like most traditional school is. They're trying to compile it in a short period and have churn and burn in terms of customers or students. But in this case, it's like, you've got this forever, so you can pass what you need to get the certificate and then keep on going back to digest it more and more and more. And as science evolves, there'll be more added to it. And I think that's why, like the price change you were talking about, well, when they first got it, there was only half of this. Now there's a whole nother half. So it's like you're going to pay the full price no matter if you're an original student or not. But now since you already were the student, you just get to pay the difference, so to speak. And I think this is a beautiful thing because this is going to help change our community in the whole entire industry, which I refer to the industry just as a community, and people who are going to be able to, like P said, trickle this information down. So that way from the top down, it could work properly. Instead of just, again, logical fallacies that get spread for decades and decades of bullshit, we can have real information so that way things are done efficiently, better for people, better for the earth, and making it so we can actually have real good quality cannabis consistently, medical, recreational, however you want to look at it. So 100%. Education, there's so many layers to it, whether you want to monetize it, do better for yourself or better for others. I think it's super important if you want to step foot into this space.
There's a few people in the chat that have mentioned that there are a few other universities that are offering, or at least institutions that are offering courses. Now, I can't verify any of these on the fly right now, but I'm reading University of Vermont, North Michigan, Michigan State, University of Arizona, Phoenix Online. Yeah, so just a few of them, just a few. So I guess you would probably want to do a little homework to figure out, I think it's fair to say that we know that Mr. Groat has completed the Utah State University one, so we know that's legit, right?
Yep.
It's I want to say it right. Yep, we know that one's legit, and is going to continue onto the second level, I guess. So is it a 200? So is it continuation of it? So are we at a 100 now? It's a 200 level, or is it just continuation of a 100 level course? Sorry, I don't know if you guys
They
do
just
the same.
added to the course.
Added to
Right,
the course.
they added
Okay.
a whole bunch of different sections, right? So like the price used to be $1,000 and you get all the sections, and that's what I did last year. Now since they added courses, they increased the price for new folks to 1,500 for new students, and then returning students is only $500. So I was like, and I'll pay the $500, get access to all. And I was that satisfied with it, and I'm really eager to hear what they have to say about organic cultivation and cannabinoid terpene synthesis in particular. It's also have
100%.
cannabinoid extraction, harvesting and curing. There's just so much breeding.
And you
It's
probably
just-
said this, but how many weeks was it?
If you register now, you have access to the course until March 31st of next year. So you have access to the course for so long. And if you're taking notes, then you've got access to that
Forever.
information forever because you've taken the notes on it. But
Forever, ever?
I wish it was
Forever?
lifetime access to the videos. That would be
That's what
cool.
you would think it would be for that amount of money.
I wish.
I've never heard of OBS.
That's actually not a lot of money compared to Oaksterdam. I just mentioned $2,000 for their course, and it doesn't look like it has as much as this one. So
Yeah,
We'll
and that's
see.
where
Homework,
it's like,
man.
which one? What's better for you? Better for your resume? Better for who you're giving money to? I probably would go with Bugby myself, personally. And it's just looking at what he's done in terms of our community of free information and helping people, and he already has a career in this space. So the fact that he's giving back as much as he has, like malign somebody's pocket for information, Bugby the Thugby might have to be it. You know what I'm saying?
there's also some other ones. You actually just brought it up to my mind here. Dr. Bugby, there's also so many other people out there that have legitimate courses. It may not be an accredited university, but Dr. Elaine Ingham, for example, she has a soil food web course. I think she has a microscope course as well. Those are ones that I want to go through. We've got Chris Trump on the natural farming side of things. He has a course, which I heard is very beneficial. The soil doctor, he has a course. So there are people out there that are, I'd say, credible people in the community that have their own courses that I would definitely go through. And that's another form of education as well, is going through those courses. And somebody in the Twitch chat actually mentioned books. There are some really, really good books out there. The Teaming With series. Shout out to Jeff Lowenfels. I actually just interviewed him for my Garden Talk podcast. But I have the Teaming with Microbes right here. He's got the Teaming with Nutrients, Teaming with Fungi. All those books are great. We've also got the Teaming with Bacteria, which just came out. P's holding up my book there.
And that one as well. Yeah,
Self promo. Yeah, I have a book for beginners. And, it doesn't really have the science back stuff, which is kind of what we're talking about here. But it'll definitely get you going if you are a new grower. So, yeah, I appreciate you pointing that one out. But there are a lot of good books. Matt Powers is somebody to shout out. He's on the regenerative side of things. I have his regenerative soil book. Incredible. That's a peer-reviewed book. So there's a lot of you can definitely self-educate as well through some credible people and some good books.
I think the difference with something like a course that's being updated is this is like new science, so to speak. Science is ever evolving. It's not static. It's dynamic. So you look at something like the Jorge Cervantes book. Like there's still stuff that's always going to be real, but there's a lot of stuff in there that's just straight bro science. So it's like time goes on. We didn't have studies then that were credible. We've got universities that are doing stuff now that I still sometimes debate the credibility based on the experience of that person. They may have the formal education, but they don't know dick about cannabis. That's what I've said before about people who do extraction. They may know scientific, processes. They may know chemical extraction. They may have worked for big pharmaceutical companies, but they don't know shit about cannabis. So then what they're seeing and what they're looking at is with an educated eye in one space, but not in the other.
Or it's specialists, It's
Yeah.
like you'll have someone that's going to specialize specifically in soil anatomy and soil science and so on and so forth. You're going to have somebody that focuses specifically on the stoma and the opening and closing of cells. You're going to have someone that focuses solely on, there's doctors, for example, that focus just on, there's general practitioners that know a little bit of everything. There's cardiologists that know a whole bunch about the heart. There's, and that's the glory of education, is that you don't have to know everything. You're going to have specialists. So I can go to Chris for any particular item in regards to A, B, or C, and then I can go to Rob for anything in regards to C, D, and E, and then YouTube for E and F.
Yeah, I think Dr. Elaine Ingham for soil science, microbes, Chris Trump, natural farming, Dr. Bruce Bugbee, I would say for like the chemistry, precision feeding, lighting, of course, with him, the experts in, those areas. So yeah, you're absolutely right. There's some people that you want to go to for certain sections of cultivation.
I know doctors that only know the male body. It's like, do you realize that there's another half of the population that's pretty important to worry about here? So yeah, it's
but they're super good at that.
But they're super good at that. Yeah. They just really let us see the. Yeah.
It's funny. I was watching the show Rescue Me. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Oh yeah.
He claims he lies to a girl and says that he's a doctor or whatever, and then he's calling up the girl because he has a question about whether or not a girl should have her period during when she's pregnant, and the girl's like, "I thought you were a doctor." Yeah, but I'm a brain doctor. I don't know much about the women's anatomy.
God, but no, and that just kind of shows that right now you're going to grab these courses, it's going to teach you a little bit of everything. But I think as science and as the education evolves, we're going to see kind of the trickle system where it kind of like filters people into their specific categories of education, and then we're going to have all these people come together. And that's when we're going to have miracles happen, and the science, the technology, the inventions are going to come and they're going to happen. And I don't even think we've hit the glory days yet. I really think we're in the still clashing stones together to make sparks stage of cannabis growth. I really do.
100%. Just think 10 years ago, I was arguing with people that I need to have 1,000-watt HPS to be able to do 100%. Anything.
I was telling people that were buying LEDs were blowing their money, man. God, I wish I was spending mom and dad's money. Yeah. But how times have changed, right?
So. I was preaching, put a whole bag of ice on your plants and shit. Like, you learn things. And over time, like, if you can't accept that science, isn't always right every time, it evolves, you got to believe in the facts. Doesn't matter, because what is true then could be different in the future based on new studies. Which is what it is.
So if you're watching a YouTube video from 2017 and they're saying something, there could be new information here in 2022, right? It's like it could just be outdated. So
yeah. So even if you get that formal education, if you don't do what Chris is doing and furthering that formal education, there can be things within this new set of videos that contradicts the old stuff, but explains why. If you don't do this, then you're going to be stuck in the past on that old shit, and it makes it so you're perpetuating ignorance, so to speak, because there's real science to back the new thing.
People are still caught up on THC and CBD. There are so many cannabinoids, and some that hit harder and better than both THC and CBD. And it's like like I said, we're just still clashing stones together. The CBD and the THC rocks together, and it's like there's a whole pile of matches and lighters behind us. So great conversation. Is there anything else that we wanted to pull out of this one?
No, just I want to ask the folks tuning in on YouTube if you want to list off some educational sources in the comment section, because there's a lot that I don't know of. You mentioned some folks here on Twitch mentioned some places I wasn't aware of. So where are some good places to get an education? What are some good books that you read? What are some, let's say influencers, but some doctors that you follow or credible people that you follow, or even channels that you follow here on YouTube that give good information? Let us know in the comments.
You're absolutely right. And as I mentioned halfway through, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget we stream every week, Thursdays, 2 p.m. Central, 3 Eastern, and 12 Pacific. Come join the conversation, twitch.tv/From the Stash Podcast. There's so many links in my head when I start rounding. It's like the Rolodex is going before I get there. My mouth's going too fast. But
yeah, well, with that being said, it's your boy Rob from CLtv and an arraignment of other stuff. Pigeon 420, Mr. Grow It, also known as Chris Hammy,
Mr. Know It.
Wink on the ones and twos. See you guys next time.